I believe in capital investments in our companies in this country. I'm a small-time investor. And my concern is that I would like to know where all your investments go, because I've heard that some of yours, a lot of it goes into foreign companies, which is not conducive to these companies in our country trying to get their companies going better and hiring people.
Yeah, well, first of all, I have some domestic investments. I just invested about $25 million of my clients' money and my money into a new company that I just established, which is drilling for oil in North Dakota. So I do some things domestically, and I do have some domestic investments. But the majority of my personal investments and the majority of my clients' investments are offshore. The reason that I'm doing that is because I'm trying to protect the wealth of my clients, and unfortunately, based on the destructive policies of Washington, the investment opportunities are broader, better. The taxes are lower, the regulations are fewer, the corporations are more profitable, so my clients can make more money investing abroad than they can investing here. That's the problem. I want to change that. I want to change Washington so that it's more profitable to invest here. You see, capitalism, if we're chasing the capital out of the country, we're not going to have economic growth. If we're going to punish people for investing here, why would they invest here? If they can get a better deal abroad, that's where they're going to go. But you know what my real concern is, the capital leaves first. The labor leaves second. And unfortunately, what's going to be happening if we don't make the changes is that the young people are going to pick up and leave the country because they're going to go where the opportunities are. They're going to go where the jobs are. And know where that is? That's where the taxes are low, and that's where the regulations are low. And that's not the United States right now. We're the high tax, high regulation country, and it's getting worse every day. I would much rather be able to tell my clients to invest here. Unfortunately, I can't do that based on what's happening in Washington. But believe me, if I can get the right policy mix back in Washington, which is sound money and small government, my clients have a lot of money all around the country. They're going to be able to bring it all back and help reindustrialize the United States. The fact that we're protecting our wealth now is going to be very valuable in the future, so we can bring it back. In the meantime, my foreign investments bring foreign currency into the United States, which shrinks our current account deficit. We still have a big current account deficit, but it's important for Americans to own foreign assets, because you know what the foreigners are getting in exchange for those assets that we buy? Dollars that are going to collapse. So my clients now own real things abroad, and the people who sold them to us, well, they're stuck with our paper, which eventually is going to collapse.
You gotta go. So one more question. And
okay. Who's next?
Marcia.
Okay.
I like a lot of what you're saying, but realistically, as a first-term senator, how do you expect to get anything done?
Yeah. Well, I expect to get a lot done, because I've heard that senators spend about 90% of their time trying to get reelected, and most of it is raising money. I'm not going to spend any of my time doing that, so that should give me a lot of free time to work on what needs to be done. And I don't want to write any new legislation. I mean, you ever see some of this legislation? I mean, no one reads it, but like 1,500 pages. All the bills that I'm going to introduce, right, all the bills that I introduce are just going to have one page, because it's just going to say to repeal. I'm just going to repeal this. So I'm not going to have to spend a lot of time writing legislation. And so, what I want to do isn't complicated. I just want to undo all the damage that's been done over the years. I understand that capitalism works and socialism doesn't. And I want to undo all these regulations that have distorted the free market, that have made our economy unproductive and uncompetitive, that have driven the capital out of the country, that are driving the jobs out of the country. And, it's easy to do. And there are a lot of people, too, that say, well, you don't have any experience, writing legislation. Well, I don't need any. And nobody has... I have the same amount of experience repealing legislation as anybody else in Congress, because it's never been done. So I'm going to be the trendsetter there. And, the stakes are high. I think that I'm going to get to the Senate and immediately try to convince the other senators what needs to be done, how high the stakes are, get them to stand with me. And if somebody will not stand with me and filibuster this debt increase, then we know they're just full of it. If they're talking about cutting government spending and balance the budget, but they refuse to stand with me and stop the debt ceiling from getting, then let's vote them out. In the past, some Republicans have tried to stop the increase in the debt ceiling, but they've always backed down because they've been scared, because the Democrats have come and said, well, then we're going to shut down the government and blame you. That doesn't scare me. shut down the government. I don't care if they blame me. I want to shut it down. Because if we don't shut down the government's going to shut down the country. So, if we shut it down, fine, let's cut the spending, and let's deal with the problem right now, instead of talking about it and pretending we're going to deal with it in the future. Because you know what? This is the future. We're the generation that's stuck with the bill. It's not going to go to our kids, because our kids aren't going to stay here. We got to deal with these problems right now, or we're going to destroy our currency and destroy our economy.
You're being waved to go?
Yeah, you gotta get out of here.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Well, as you're walking out, maybe you can answer this question. I hope, and maybe you'll say yes to this question, but if you don't win the delegate vote at the convention, would you be willing to primary?
Yeah, I've been saying that all along. I hope I can win the convention. I hope I can convince the delegates that I'm the guy, that I'm the best guy to beat Dick Blumenthal, and I'm the best guy to have in the Senate. I think if anybody else wins, we've blown an opportunity. Sure, Dick Blumenthal's a bad guy, and I'd rather have any of my Republican opponents than Dick Blumenthal, but at the end of the day, I don't think they're going to change anything. We have plenty of Republicans in Congress, and none of them have done anything. Right. I'm going to be different, right? and I trust that. So I think this is a real opportunity for Connecticut to not only get the seat that Chris Dodd has held for 30 years, but to put me in Washington. And if you really want to send a message to Washington, then send me there, because believe me, they'll get that message.
You got this guy on the floor.
Anyway, anybody, if you have any more questions, go to my website at schiffforsenate.com. Check it out. Look on there's a little video on there, Who is Peter Schiff? Watch that, and you can drop me an email if there's any other questions that I haven't answered. Sorry I was late.
No problem.